What's up? What's up? Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, and welcome back to another edition of MVP Sports Live. I am joined, as I always am, with my beautiful co-host, Dave Oster. Dave, how you doing?
Doing good. A little heated before the show. Calm down now.
It's been really heated for you today. First you ate a burrito. You're like, oh no, I'm sweating like Ricky was yesterday before stream.
Yeah.
And now you got heated with a
burrito, man.
A pre-stream NBA discussion.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it just carries over from the Discord, which if you do someone in Twitch channel, drop the Discord link. If anybody wants to jump in our Discord, it is free to all fans. Check it out. There's a whole lot of shit going down in that Discord as far as NBA chatter right now. But yeah.
We got everything in there, and well, that'll just roll right into housekeeping. MVP Sports Live, if you're new to it, this is where we talk about everything in the world of sports that happened pretty much the day before. Daily sports show, Monday through Friday. Dave and I give our daily opinions on it. Like Dave just said, we have our own Discord. That's where all the MVP family can get in, have a discussion about many of the sports that we talk about here, and even the gaming and nerdy stuff that we talk about on MVP Entertainment, that YouTube channel, and MVP Games Live. So if you're in Twitch chat, I put the exclamation Discord, which popped the link in there for you. And if you're on YouTube, that link is right down below. So go ahead and join it. Also, if you want to help support the channel, patreon.com/MVP vids. I had to think to myself, Dave, because I almost said the old link. It just rattles off the brain. Also, thank you to our Patreon producer, Pat Hill. Thanks to Pat for helping the wheels and all our patrons helping the wheels. But Pat, our Patreon producer. And then last but not least, these will be on two things. These will be on podcast services eventually. Thank you for your patience. Yep. And Thursday, we will be live streaming the draft lottery. So what's going to happen, Dave and I have officially decided what we're going to do. The first half of it, we are going to live stream with the patrons in the watch along channel. Kind of be like a watch along like we did for the NFL draft many moons ago. And then after the lotto happens, myself, Dave, and then Soapy, if Soapy wants to, are going to drop down into the BOIZ only channel, basically. BOIZ Den. And we're going to give basically our analysis. Is that too creepy?
It sounds a little weird.
BOIZ Sports Den.
The recording channel.
The recording channel. As it is labeled right now. And we're going to give then our analysis, just us, of what went down for the lottery. So kind of join us for that right here, twitch.tv/MVP vids. But as always, everything's on YouTube not right after, but usually the day after by the latest that we record things. But Dave, we got a jam-packed show talking NBA, having a little bit of what I'm going to call a boomer conversation, because that's what it is. Are we too soft in sports these days? Going to have a conversation about that and much more. But what we're going to start with is the NBA draft lottery. I just mentioned it. It's on Thursday. There will be 14 NBA teams that will all be hoping for either the first, second, third, or fourth picks in the NBA draft lottery. And usually we kind of talk about the lottery, talk about different teams that may need a 1 through 4 pick, and then we kind of give our predictions of how it's going to fall down 1 through 4 when the ping pong balls all come out or basically get stuck together because it's rigged. But I'll get into that later because that's the traditional Ricky, and the draft lottery is rigged. But the question I want to start with the lottery, Dave, is this one of the most, I want to say, is this one of the most unique lotteries we have just because of who's at the top of it?
Oh, you mean the fact that one of the best teams
Warriors
in the NBA recent history is... Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate for other teams that the Warriors have a top chance of getting the number 1 overall pick, equal to Cleveland and Minnesota, thanks to these lottery rules that were put in place last year. I love it. It's spicy. Like, they've got the ultimate, like, flexibility. They have Steph, they have Clay, they have Draymond all locked up right now. So it comes down to, you've got Andrew Wiggins, who you traded for mid-season. You did the D'Lo move. You picked up some more capital, and you got Andrew Wiggins. They've got a top pick, which means they have ultimate flexibility when it comes to, do we move the pick plus Wiggins for an established star? Do we move one but not the other? Do we just pick up someone like a James Wiseman who, basically in this draft class seems to be the only sure thing out there because he's 7 feet tall and he's athletic, and you can't go wrong filling in your biggest hole as the Golden State Warriors go back to the playoffs again, assumedly next year if they're all healthy. Like, I don't know, that one's spicy. And don't get me wrong there. Like it's a weird situation. Almost, people bring up the Spurs and the Spurs going from David Robinson's injury year to basically picking up, Tim Duncan at the top and being set to go for the next 20 years, which is just insanity. I don't think this is that type of a generational draft where, there's no Tim Duncan level talent here, unfortunately, for the Golden State Warriors, but man, did things fall in their favor.
Well, I want to ask you this because Soapy and I talked about it when you were on vacation last week. Some of the big news that came out of Golden State was, what should they do with the pick? And everyone in Golden State, like beat writers, are kind of saying that Edwards is the one that they're falling in love with. However, there's some chatter that, hey, if they get the number 1 pick, why wouldn't they? And the one that I thought it was kind of a stretch by one of their NBC Bay Area beat writers, but he was like, hey, if they get the number 1 pick, why not package Wiggins and that pick together to get a Pascal Siakam? And like, I looked at that and I went, yeah, like I could see that being a fair trade. I just don't see Toronto doing that.
Yeah, Toronto's not going to pull that move, but they could get someone of similar value.
But I was going to ask you, if you're the Golden State Warriors, let's say they do get number 1, they stay there. Do you make the pick, or are you looking to move the pick? Because even their, either their GM or their basketball operations guy, I think his name is Bob Myers, he's even said this week that there's no real pressure to make like a win now.
Yeah, that's
pick at number 1.
I saw that article that came out. Players are not pushing for anything right now. It's very much, let's just play it out. Like, I'm surprised you didn't bring up the whole like Wiggins plus the pick plus a future pick for Bradley Beal. Yeah, like that's the one that makes the most sense to me, and that's disgusting. I think that's a win-win because the Wizards could walk away with John Wall, Anthony Edwards, and Andrew Wiggins as your 1 through 3, and that honestly in the East, if John Wall's healthy, could get a lot of shit done. Like that puts you back up into the top 6. So I know as much as Bradley Beal keeps saying the right things, he wants to be in Washington, all the right words are being said. It's hard for me to believe that he will be there through his contract. So I do see, there being the opportunity for Golden State to do that, but I almost wonder, like, if they fall, if it goes, it's stupid to say fall because Cleveland and Minnesota have equal odds at the number 1 pick. I don't want to write off like Golden State's the favorite for the number 1. They're not. It's equal odds.
I mean, but if they went off a record, they would be number 1. I know. But like the reason you say fall is if it was by record, they would be falling even though 1 through 3 has the same odds because of the rules.
Yeah. So like
it's them the rules.
If Minnesota walks away with it or Cleveland walks away with it and they get pushed down to like 3 or 4, like it's not the end of the world for them because somehow they're going to fall ass backwards into talent one way or the other. Like I think the Golden State is one of those teams where it's an embarrassment of riches. They are already an excellent team. This year was almost like a dedicated tank year that we joked about. Leading up to the year, I had mentioned that these injuries are going to be a thing. Don't put them in the playoffs. There's no reason. They're going to tank. They're going to lose all their games. They're going to go for a pick because it's a perfect bounce back year. You get everybody healthy. Makes perfect sense. So yeah, I think they're in a win-win situation. Either you roll it back with your talent plus your top pick, or you go get yourself an established star, and you're right back at the top. So disgusting setup for them.
Yeah, and like I said last week, I would want to move on from Wiggins if I was Golden State, just because I don't know long-term how he would fit in with that team. I'm sure it would be fine. Steph, Clay, and Draymond would make it work. But like, there's also a side of me that's like, if they get number 1 or number 2 or number 3, and like a guy like LaMelo, who's on the board, like if he's there, like I look at him as like, shit, could you imagine him either running the second unit off the bench, or when Steph gets injured, hey, we have another point guard that we can just put in there because, when Steph gets injured, because it always happens. Usually you're the one to bring it up, but I guess this time I'll bring it up.
I'm being positive. Am I being punished? No.
I'm talking about like when we did the fast break. Whenever the Warriors came up, Dave had to mention that Steph Curry gets injured. So I'll bring up the ankles now because I'm usually the Warriors stan here. But I'm going to ask you this: who's a team, any team, 2 through 14, that you would be ecstatic if they got 1 through 4? Not even number 1, just 1 through 4, and made the leap.
I mean, you have to start off with the fact that the Chicago Bulls need to not be 7th. If we're 7th, we're cursed, and it's a thing, and I'm afraid of what will happen. Secondly, I think Memphis would be the most intriguing because obviously there are protections on that pick. Cleveland owns the pick, picks 7 through 14. Mm-hmm. So if they get that 1 through 4, the Memphis Grizzlies they have John Morant, they have Jalen Brooks, they have Jaren Jackson Jr. Hope he's okay after that injury. Mm-hmm. They got Jandon Jark out there. They got Jonas Valanciunas. Like, they have Jason Allen. Jason Jalen. The Jays are getting hard at this point.
I love it.
He even played up. Justice Winslow. I'm not putting a J on his last name. That's just not happening. They have a really good team and a really young team, and I can't imagine them gaining another top talent. Like, if they were able to add like any one of these top picks that are in the 1 through 4 range would be amazing for them. So I think they're the team I'm most excited to see. If they could get a jump, that would be amazing for them. But you gotta root for who you gotta root for. So like, am I excited to see if like Atlanta gets another pick? Yeah, that'd be fun too. Like, there's so many teams where they could use it. I mean, there's also teams where I'm just not excited. Like Sacramento, I feel bad for Sacramento at this point.
Vlade's not making the pick.
That team.
Vlade's not making it.
True. True, but who is going to make it for them?
Right now it's Dumars. They haven't hired anybody.
Which, if you look at Joe Dumars' history in front offices, you should not feel confident about that pick.
Well, I didn't say I'm confident about it.
I'm just telling them why. Like, I'm just explaining why that's not a great thing for them. So I have my concerns about that team, and we're going to go in depth on them probably. Yeah. But like, every one of these teams is bad for a reason. Golden State injuries, Cleveland lack of a fucking direction. Like, they've got back-to-back point guards they've picked, and this could be a third year where they take another guard. Minnesota is intriguing because you have such offensive weapons as Cat and D'Lo out there. Malik Beasley popped off for I think his last dozen games that he was on their team. So like, they've got just firepower for days, but like, they're a bad team. Atlanta, Trae Young, get that boy some help. Get Cam some help out there. That'll be great. Detroit, I don't even know. Like, Sophie, I defer to Sophie on this, but like, they are a team in desperate need of talent that's not broken. Like, I feel bad. Like, I love Blake, but he was so broken. So completely broken, so they had to move on. New York, obviously, they need somebody who can play basketball on that team. They have a head coach who hates young kids, so
he's not going to play anyways.
Well, that's it. We have to figure out like, has Tom Thibodeau grown as head coach? Because you always talk about player development, but coaching development doesn't get as much love, and I think that's one of those things where he spent time as a special assistant to multiple teams over the past years. So he's gotten maybe some different points of view, some different, rubbing shoulders with people. So maybe he's grown as head coach and he will be better at working with young talent.
Or like with the Knicks, maybe they move on from Randall. Bobby Portis doesn't come back. I think Taj is under contract for 1 more year, but they free up some power forward space, and they go, oh, Obi Toppin's an older player. Like, Tom Thibodeau might play Obi Toppin. I'm not saying the Knicks should draft Obi Toppin, Knicks fans, before you think that's a serious take. The other thing that makes this lotto interesting is, like, I feel like last year, because last year was the biggest year of, I know you were a big proponent of it. I don't remember if Sean was. I didn't really think it was like this, but I remember you saying it where it's like God, this draft is so boring, only because it's like, well, who's the first pick? Zion. Who's the first pick? Zion. Where at least the year before it was like, well, some mock drafts we had Luka, some we had Ayton.
Yeah.
Like there was a little bit. One I had Trae Young going number one. Just saying.
Yeah. There was some Ben Simmons BI. If you go further back, there was every year there's kind of some discussion around this stuff. But like this year, it's truly it's the Anthony Bennett year.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
But I don't expect the first pick to flounder as poorly as Anthony Bennett. I just think that nobody's had the chance to set themselves apart from another. I think we've seen so few games, and it's been so long since they've played, that it's hard to put these guys in their own categories. Like when you look at the top of the draft, it's just, I don't think there's a wrong answer, but I also don't know that there's a right answer.
I don't think I'm going to take Ball, Edwards, Wiseman. Those are the ones I'm going to use for this analogy.
Okay.
I was going to say the same thing. It reminds me a lot about the Anthony Bennett year. The only thing I think is different was like if any of those three are drafted number one, if they quote unquote flop, I don't think it's the same as Anthony Bennett, where it's like, holy shit, he's not in the league anymore. I think if it's like, let's say Edwards gets drafted number one. If he's a flop, in my mind, it's going to be, well, okay, he's just a bench player. Like
he's going to be worse Wiggins. Like that's, he's inefficient. He's a slasher, and he's strong. He's athletic. Like that would be a flop for Anthony Edwards. If you were to say he flops, I'm with you. I don't think that he's a player who flops out of the league. He is too good at basketball to have that kind of like drop off. Anthony Bennett dominated off of his physicality and his positional play, and I don't know what went wrong with him. But like, he had some issues, but Anthony Edwards, he can get buckets. Like he can go get his. He's got the right mentality. For him, it's more about he needs to refine his shot. He needs to slow the game down to a pace where he can play controlled. So no, I think he's got a lot of the right tools. But I don't think he's someone who's going to be bust out the league. Like out of the guys you mentioned, like the only. I don't see it in the top three. It's hard for me to see unless like LaMelo Ball like literally just can't shoot a basketball to save his life and looks like Michael Carter Williams out there. But even he's still on a team.
Rookie of the year then.
I don't know what to tell you. I don't think any of the three guys at the top of the draft can bust out.
I still think there's like an oddball chance too of like if a team at number one, like let's say we have a weird thing in the lottery where a team like jumps up to number one. And I don't know exactly what team I want to say. Like there's a chance to me that a team could go number one. Maybe it's like the Spurs or something. And we see like Denny Abdia go number one, like an oddball pick. That's not those three because like for me, there's not many teams on the list that would pass up Ball, Edwards, or Wiseman, but like I think it was Soapy who brought up in the Discord where it was like, oh, well, I really want to see the Spurs get the number one pick. And I'm sitting there going, well, okay, if they go Wiseman, like they could have Wiseman and LaMarcus down low. That wouldn't be a problem. With Edwards, it's like, are you going to have him play the 3 and then have DeMar play the 2? Or are you going to have DeMar play the 2?
The 3 the whole time. You leave him at the 3. Obviously, Edwards plays the 2 there.
Yeah.
Like, Lonnie goes back to the bench. It's disappointing, but it is what it is.
And then, like, with LaMelo, it's like, is he going to be your backup guard? Because you've got, I know DeJounte Murray is, like, coming off an injury, but, like, he's the starter when healthy.
There's the thing, like, if they need offense, you can go LaMelo Ball as your starter. If you need defense, you can put DeJounte Murray out there. It's just, DeJounte has not made that leap. You know, everybody's progression is going to be different. We always expect gradual progression, but it works out differently. Like some players will progress in certain aspects of their game, but not others. You won't see it in the stat liners. You won't see it every game. So it's disappointing. Like DeJounte Murray is someone who in his like first year of actually playing, you know, he's an all defensive team-esque player. And like he is one of the best lockdown guards, incredible wingspan, gets in passion. That's awesome. But as a point guard and as a scorer, he has not gotten much better. He has worked on it, but he is not able to show that development yet. So I understand if they need to go a different direction. And hey, if you could tape those players back to back, you'd have a fucking all NBA passer, scorer, defender, like everything you need. But sometimes you gotta make that risk.
There's one team I'm gonna pull from Twitch chat. Eric brings up Minnesota, and he said Minnesota just needs a plug-in guy like Devin Vassell or Isaac Okoro. That's probably like, that's to me. It's like, but isn't that if they get bumped back, like if they stay either 3-4 or jump up to 2-1?
They're equal odds for 1. So let's just say 1 through 3 is the first, whatever. I know you got your team fits, which I can't wait to see, that whole series start up. Post this lottery, check out Ricky's team fits. They'll be coming out, I think, daily?
Yeah, they'll be Monday through Friday. I wanted to do them starting Monday, but I was talking to Soapy about it because I had the thought and I was already talking to him. So I brought it up to him where I'm like, they would technically be like right now is when I wanted to do them. So Patreon would see them now. They would see the first 2 as of right now. But then I'm like, when it hits YouTube, it's like, I didn't want to get those dumb comments that I know we would get like, hey, Edgelord, the draft lottery's over. And it's like, I didn't want to deal with that hassle.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So check out Ricky's series. It's going to be coming to you shortly. It's going to be great for team fits. But if the Timberwolves go 1 through 3,
they're not going to pass up Wiseman, Edwards, or Ball, right? Even though they have Cat and Russell.
I think they could. I think that you can slide D'Lo over to the 2 if you have LaMelo. I think you can pop in Anthony Edwards into that starting lineup and just run Malik Beasley, be a little smaller on the wing side, and James Wiseman seemingly could fit next to Cat and provide them with something a little bit more interesting in their low post game. So I don't think they whatever order it comes out in, it's what's your flavor, what's your preference. As the draft gets further along though, I don't know that I could see them taking, a Killian Hayes, someone who has that, a Cole Anthony, those are guys who are near the top of the draft. I'm with you. I think they do need that wing prospect, whether it is Denny, Devin, or even I've seen, the pairings of, putting Onyeka Okongwu out there to roll in as your small ball 5 next to Cat. Technically, he's a 4. You play Cat's 5, whatever offensive defensive matchups you want to call it. But some complementary piece to Cat out there. But at the end of the day, it's just you need somebody who can play defense and try hard and cover multiple positions. That's what the Timberwolves need. It's not going to be accomplished just in this draft, but it will be benefited by this draft.
It's that time, Dave. Or should I say it like the UFC time? It's time!
Love it. Love it.
What's your 1 through 4? Dave's 1 through 4 prediction for Thursday.
I'm gonna go.
I love the Dave what am I going to say face.
I don't even there's always a wild card going to the top.
Yep.
So I don't think any of the 3 teams who are top 3 or who are equal chances, best chances, will get the number 1 pick. I think there will be a wild card team. It's going to jump up there. And today I'm feeling like the Phoenix Suns
are going to be the number 1.
Phoenix Suns are rewarded for going 8-0 in the bubble, and they will get the number 1 overall pick, and they will have a chance to do it over again. Because obviously you fucked up with DeAndre Ayton. He's a great player. Don't get me wrong. He's going to be a perennial all-star. Yeah. He's gotten better defensively. He's offensively amazing. Great player. Not Luka Doncic, though. That's where you get fucked up. Not Luka. So I'll go Phoenix Suns 1. I'll go Cleveland 2. Golden State 3, and whatever.
So say it one more time because I was
Phoenix,
not paying attention.
Cleveland, Golden State, then I don't want to give Minnesota the 4. I want to give the Hawks or something. But yeah, that's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling Phoenix gets rewarded.
So
I would love it if the Sun or if the Bulls got it, Pat. If Bulls got 1, 2, 3, and 4, that would be great. No arguments here.
So I'm trying to look at last year's odds.
Yep.
And find those because I want to do a little bit of research because, like you said, there's usually that one team that jumps on in. Sometimes it's a little jump, like they were 6-7.
Yep.
But then there's a bigger jump. Hey, they might be 14 and have the smallest odds to win the lottery.
Yep.
I'm gonna be a little bold here.
Sure.
But I am gonna say that I'm gonna start with number 4. Number 4 to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say it's I'm going to say Cleveland gets 4. The Bulls get 3. Homer pick.
Thanks.
The Warriors get 2.
Oh?
Memphis Grizzlies, number 1 pick.
Memphis Grizzlies. I mean...
Here's my Ricky is rigged reasonalogy is the word I'm using. The made-up word that I just made up right now. The reasonalogy that I'm doing this is last year, my thought process was they gave it to I said the Pelicans before. They gave it to the Pelicans because I was like, oh, the NBA was happy. You played ball. You gave AD to the Lakers.
That was so rigged.
We're gonna give you Zion.
Yeah.
This year it's the same thing. Same thing, a little bit different. Hey, Memphis, COVID was a bitch, right? It was a total bitch. You probably should have made the playoffs. But thank you for playing ball, not being mad about this playing game. You played a hell of a game against the Trailblazers. I will give you that. But you know what? First off, we're not going to let you lose your pick. Second off, we're going to give you the first pick out of everybody. And then we're going to make sure you got the future going forward. That's rig number 1. Rigged number 2 is keeping the Warriors at 2 because that just keeps the dynasty going. The cha-chings keep coming in when the Warriors are on top.
Sometimes.
There's a part of me that wanted to put the Knicks at 4 because I agree with the sense of, I think Easy said it in our Discord of I believe that when LA, Chicago, New York, these bigger market teams are good, that's better for the league. That brings in more money. When the bigger markets, I would even say even a Miami too. When these teams are good, that brings in the money writes itself at that point. But at the same time, I didn't know a 4th team I wanted to pull up, so that's why I'm going to keep the Cavs at 4. My homer pick of the Bulls going at 3. The riggedness of the Warriors still getting a top 3 pick, and then Memphis. And this is the NBA saying, "Hey, Danny. Should have traded those picks, my guy. Should have traded those picks because now you don't got them."
They got pushed again.
Yeah.
Into arguably a better draft class this year, maybe. So...
And Dave goes, great. Another year I have to hear about these damn fucking Celtic picks.
Celtics are going to have 17 picks in 3 years for they're literally going to own half of a draft in 3 years from now. They will just keep collecting these picks and pile them up. It's going to be so dumb. So, I don't know.
But let's move on. Let's go into some playoff basketball talk. And the first, I'll let you decide. Do you want to talk about we have 2 things on the docket for it. Do you want to talk about what happened yesterday or what happened today first?
Let's start with the past. We'll move up to the present.
So the news is that Gordon Heyward is going to miss 4 weeks with I think it was a grade 3. I'm pulling up the tweet right now. A grade 3 ankle sprain.
It's tough.
The question's easy. This is not the first time we've talked injuries on the show. Dave, how does this affect the Celtics, and does this let the Sixers back into this series?
I think it definitely does. It's not an equal to losing Ben Simmons. Obviously that hurt the Sixers. That's going to hurt the Sixers longer, but I think that it definitely brings the series a whole lot closer than it should have been. Jason Tatum started off just like a fucking monster in that game. He cooled down. Jaylen Brown got hot. They were able to make that transition. Gordon Hayward had played good all-around basketball in between. Kemba Walker being a slimy snake that he is, that flopping piece of shit he gets it going. Kemba, quit being a scumbag. It makes the series closer, but I do think that the Celtics have the ability to put in a Marcus Smart in there and push their lineup a little over. and defensively they're still just as frustrating. So like it's going to hurt them. But like you saw top tier play out of multiple players on the Sixers. It wasn't their best game, but it was a very good game for a couple of them. And they still pushed it pretty close. And they were literally like getting the ball into Joe's hands away from winning the game. They were literally possessions away. So yeah, taking with Gordon Hayward's a big fucking deal. For 4 weeks, that's a long time in the bubble, because that's basically like conference finals.
To put it in perspective, Rachel Nichols put out a tweet that said, Celtics say Gordon Hayward has a grade 3 sprain in his right ankle. He's expected to miss about 4 weeks. And in parentheses, she put, conference finals are slated to start in 3.5 weeks.
There you go.
And that to me, where it's like, I know I fed you the question of like, how does it affect this series?
Yep.
I don't think it affects this series at all. I still think that Boston has the talent to get past a Sixers team that will be without Ben Simmons, even though Joel Embiid said, hey, I got to be better. I got to carry this team. He should. He's the leader of this team. But like I look back to last year's playoffs, and although you look at his performances against Milwaukee, he didn't have the best performances. I feel like in the second round and even the third round, if they get like, this is now something where like, our predictions that went up.
Yeah.
Celtics aren't making the finals without Gordon Hayward. In my mind, I don't even think, if I knew this injury was happening before we made those predictions, I would have picked Toronto to win and not Boston. Like that's how big of an injury I think this is. I know you could still say, well, Toronto, although they won the finals last year, they don't have Kawhi, so they might not be as experienced in the playoffs, although they got the experience last year with Kawhi. I just feel like if Toronto and Boston come out, it's not a for sure death sentence, but it makes that series a lot closer than we thought it was.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think it's a big loss. People like to forget how much Gordon Hayward contributes to that team because he was so bad coming off of a horrific injury. It took him a long time to get back to, the player that we know him as and accepting a different role because he couldn't be that player on this Celtics team. It is a team over individual talent setup. They've got the right offensive motion. They've got the right guys with the ball in their hands. He's not the guy on this team. And kind of being able to judge that and, account for that in his stat line. He's a very good player still. So it's going to suck. I think it makes it extremely close. If Ben would be back, I almost want to say that they would win it now. Like, I think it's that big of a deal. Jake, correct me. I don't know what Ben's return table looks like at this point in time, though.
I mean, Philly Sean might be able to help.
Philly Sean, huh? One of you Philly fanatics?
Dave's like, I just default to Jake whenever I think.
I'm sorry, I overlook our boy, fucking Philly Sean.
The other thing,
Philly in your name.
The other thing I think of is because you mentioned the other injury he was getting over. Does this start to write a history for Gordon Hayward that he's injury prone? Like, if it wasn't there already, like
unlucky. I don't know about injury prone. I just say unlucky. I mean, I don't think it's not the same. If it was the same piece, Steph Curry is injury prone. He has genetically bad ankle. Like, he will continue to struggle with his ankles. Kawhi Leonard has a quad issue that will be with him for the rest of his life. Like, that's injury prone. I think Gordon Hayward might just be unlucky, and that happened.
Moving on to today, though, the Milwaukee Bucks played, and Dave, yesterday on the show,
did.
Or did they play? Yesterday on the show, I kind of want to I want to apologize to Magic fans, but then I don't. The reason why is there's a part of me that's like, I want to apologize to Magic fans because I did not give you enough credit. I said, this should be a sweep, no problem, although Milwaukee hasn't played well in the bubble. But then I don't, because someone brought up in Discord, hey, remember when the Magic played like this against Toronto last year, and how did that end up? It's like, oh, yeah, that's right. Toronto still won it all. So, I mean, it's not like the Bucks aren't dead in the water after this game, but losing 122 to 110 to the Magic, who also have their own injury problems.
That's a subtle way to put it.
And you get bad performances off the bench, You get a Brook Lopez who only had 5 points, but I don't know if you were expecting many more points from him. Really, it's Chris Mid's 14 that you might look at as like the, hey, you should have a little bit more points because you're Chris Mid. The thing I want to ask you, Dave, is if you were a Bucks fan right now, on a scale of, we'll do a 3 scale, 3 being like not at all, 2 being in the middle, 3 being like, holy shit, I'm sweating bullets right now. How should Bucks fans be? How should they feel?
Twice. They should not be worried at all yet. They should not be worried at all yet. This is, I'm just gonna say, this is the Orlando Magic being the Orlando Magic. The supernova of offense popped off against them. It happens. Terrence Ross delivers. You know,
it happens.
Bucci Mane apparently doesn't have a fucking equal in that low post. He dominated at will, which honestly a little surprising. He's a guy we overlook. He's an all-star. He's very good.
Straight up.
We wrote him off when Mo Bamba came around, and then Mo Bamba, dude, he's a developmental project that may or may not follow through on in the next 4 years. Best part about Mo Bamba is that song. That's going to take a lot to get better than. I loved him. His interviews are great. He seems like a fantastic young kid, but he has got to add strength, muscle, durability, all those things. His training needs to be up there. Now he's in the post-COVID, doctor's checks and everything to see what the long-term effects are. So he's got a lot to overcome. So Vucevic just keeps doing it, man. He kills it from the outside. He kills it from the inside. Correct him. Markelle Fultz, my comeback player of the year. Come on. He had a good game.
He
Give
did.
him credit for his good game.
I'm happy that he had a good game.
I'm happy with the Magic's performance. No one expects him to win the series, but winning one game already proves a point of a lot of people being like, the Magic don't deserve their fucking playoff spot. No, they did, and they proved it.
See, I'm on the other side of, if I'm a Bucks fan, I'm not worried about the rest of this series.
Yep.
I'm worried about future series. And with me personally, if you watched the show yesterday, I'm very high on the Miami Heat right now.
Yeah.
I would be worried about Miami. I would be worried about Boston. Maybe see, that's the thing. They'd be getting Gordon Hayward back middle of that series. I'd be worried about Boston. I'd be worried about Toronto. A game like this shows, and really it comes down to Giannis. I love Chicago Twitter, by the way, because Chicago Twitter be blowing up, Dave, about how after one game, Giannis is coming to Chicago. I saw a tweet from Bulls Scripted that's well, if you get Giannis at the 3, could you draft Denny and have a starting lineup of Kobe, Zach, Giannis at the 3, Denny at the 4, and then Laurie at the 5. I'm like, guys, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. We're getting ahead of ourselves. But I love it. I love it. One game and we're already going off how Giannis is coming to Chicago. But I bring up Giannis because this, to me, will show what type of a player Giannis is. Because think about that Raptors team. Did Kawhi let those Magic? Did Siakam let those Magic beat them? No. And they were fine. They went to the finals. So really, if Giannis and Chris Mid can get it going, if I'm going to say it, the bench too, they need somebody off this bench besides fucking George Hill, who had 16 today, who had a nice efficient 27 minutes. They need someone else who can provide something. Because the greatest detriment to this team, and we've said it before, it's, they play 3 quarters in the regular season, then they take the 4th off. Yeah. The only problem is, we said that about the Warriors, but the thing about the Warriors is they were able to back it up when the playoffs came. If the Bucks continue to have performances like this, that might be something that hurts them against a team like Toronto, Miami, or Boston. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think it adds a second question to how they approach the bubble and their limited playing time during those games, where it's look, we don't need to win any of these games. It's merely for us to tune up and get into game shape again, run some systems, make sure people are doing well. And I think people are going to look back at those games if they continue to struggle, point at that as a reason why. They didn't give Giannis enough run. He wasn't able to get fully engaged. The offense wasn't running smoothly. Maybe people weren't taking their quarantine time seriously and putting in the practice, the amount of work required to compete at a championship level. So I think that if things go poorly from here forward, have something to look back at and point at. But I don't think that they are in panic mode yet. I think this is totally fine. It's not, unprecedented for the Orlando Magic to take game off of a team. And then if you watch tomorrow or if you watch the next day they play.
Thursday will be interesting if they're down 0-2 before
If the Magic lose by 25, I would not be surprised.
Let's see. Is that game on Thursday before we record? Let's see.
I'm just saying that, you gotta go back. As far as Giannis is concerned, go back to the wise words of Stan Van. You gotta hit your free throws.
Yeah. The game that will be done on Thursday before our show will be Miami-Indy. Has the early game. Orlando-Milwaukee is at 5 o'clock Central Time.
So we'll be live reacting to that while that game goes.
But we're gonna move on. We're gonna go into a daily segment here on MVP Sports Live. This is our little Player of the Month kind of segment. We call it Wet Boys. These are the dampest of dudes, the soggiest of shooters, the moistest of men, and sometimes the mistiest of misses. These are our Wet Boys. These are, like I said, our Players of the Week. Dave gets one every day. I get one every day. And then our patrons, patreon.com/MVP vids, silver and above, they get to vote on their patron as well. And Dave, I'm just going to tell you now, the patrons had a little bit of a hard time deciding who it was.
Really?
I had a hard time deciding who mine was. I'm not even 100% confident in my Wet Boy, but I'll get to that. As always, though, who's your Wet Boy for Tuesday, August 18th, 2020?
Now, I announced my Wet Boy live last night during our...
well, you announced it to the patrons.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you were in Discord last night, you heard me proclaim my Wet Boy. So, again, another shill for join the Discord. It's just entertaining. It's Marooks.
Our boy Marooks. Saying it that way, because look at the card. Marooks Morris.
Our boy Marooks Morris had a fantastic game on all assets. Not only was he able to knock down shots efficiently, play excellent defense, move the ball, get boards, shoot well. Like, he did everything you wanted him. Like, if you are a Clippers fan, this is exactly why you got Marooks Morris. He does everything you need him to do. And not even on this card that I'm looking at right now, one thing happened that won this Clippers game. It locked it. The game was a lock. KP's ejection. Thank you, Marooks Morris. Look, I don't like the refs being as involved as they are, and we'll talk about that.
We're going to get into it.
But that man starts shit, and he has an attitude, and it works out.
It's like
credit to him. He is one of the biggest reasons why the Clippers won that game.
It's like on IG today. I was kind of scrolling through, and Cowherd had a little clip where he's like, basically putting the game on Porzingis. He goes, if you're KP, you got to understand, you're the second best player on the Mavericks.
Yep.
And your first best player is a 20-year-old or 22-year-old. I can't remember.
Luka's 20.
And you got into a scuffle with Marooks, who's the seventh best player on the Clippers.
But
put into a little bit of perspective. My Wet Boy, Dave, I'm not confident in, and here's the reason why. So I was choosing between two people.
Sure.
One person had a phenomenal game, an efficient game, and their team won.
Okay.
The second person lost their game, had a very high scoring game.
That can be okay.
And was compared to Michael Jordan.
Oh, well, so, I would probably lean with, the second one if I were you.
I went with, you say Jordan, and it's hard for me to go against it. Yeah. I'm sorry, Fred VanVleet.
Oh,
but
shit.
Donovan Mitchell gets my Wet Boy today.
Both worthy.
Like Fred VanVleet, I wanted to give it to him because I'm like, he played well, and he won.
Mode.
He did. But Donovan Mitchell, 57 points, the youngest player since Michael against the Celtics to score that many points in a playoff game. He lost, and I know that's a thing that should go against the Wet Boy, but here's my argument. Is first you compared him to Michael Jordan, and Michael also lost that game. So, this is something that I'm might overseed it, but I was like, damn, I should have probably, there's a part of me that's like, I wanted to give it to Fred but I could not overpass what Donovan Mitchell did.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Donovan Mitchell was a one-man carry machine that game, and it was a shame to watch them fall apart in overtime. But look, I mean, this is a Jazz team that is outgunned right now. They're missing Bojan Bogdanovic and Mike Conley. I think they started a guy who had played in like 25 games prior to that, like in his entire career. So they're in a little bit of a special circumstance. So credit to the Spida. Like Donovan Mitchell went out there and tried to carry as hard as he could, and he was excellent doing it. It was classic Donovan Mitchell. So credit to him. Love what he does.
And the patrons, yeah, he did. And that's where I'm like, oh man, if there was a.
So what the patrons do? Because this is a shocker to me. I don't know what they did.
This was one, Dave. I could have messaged you and been like, hey, out of these two, who would you pick?
Yep, they tied.
But I made the executive decision because the one I picked won his game, and was a big reason why they won the game. The other team lost in bad fashion after being up by so much and then blowing it. Luka Doncic got snubbed. Who did he get snubbed for?
Who?
Jamal Murray.
Really?
Yep, Jamal Murray. And the only reason why I and this is another one where I'm like, Luka deserved a wet boy also.
Luka set a record as well. Luka was the youngest player to put up the most points in a playoff game, I think. Finished with 42.
But like, there's a part of me that's like,
also turnover record.
There were it's so rigged. There were so many times in that Denver game, where a shot down the stretch, a key call that there were some people that were like, oh, that was he drew a charging foul, Dave, that was not called a charge. Should have been a charge. But they called it a blocking foul on him. But he was one of the big reasons why Denver won that game and pulled away from I almost said Dallas, from Utah. Today's been a day of like close wet boys where the NBA was littered with them yesterday.
Just excellent performances all around. So yeah, I don't think we had a bad one there. I think that all these guys were worthy. I mean, Jamal Murray was like one half of that entire Denver Nuggets offense for the end stretch of the game, so credit to him. But I can't think of Jamal Murray without thinking of that stupid Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. I'm sorry. Like, he's getting clowned on that for the rest of his life.
It's the hair. Philly Sean giving away his vote. Sean voted for Kevin Knox as a dry dude. That one did not win. Did not win. But let's move on. We got two things left. Might just talk about one of them. We'll see how long they go. The first thing is kind of an interesting discussion to me. And I have three separate things down here, Dave, as like instances that kind of feed into this argument. But really it all stems from yesterday in the baseball world. We had Fernando Tatis, who's one of the rising young short stars. Yeah, junior. In baseball, playing for the Padres. And the controversy around him is that the Padres had, a 14-3 lead in the eighth inning. And it was a 3-0 count. And the guy threw him a meatball. And he cracked a grand slam on him.
Nice.
So everyone's upset that you don't do that. Rangers manager came out and said that, let's see, right here, that he didn't like it, adding that the unwritten rules of baseball are constantly being challenged in today's game. Even Tatis's manager, after the game, said, now, you know what? I don't like it. I'd rather a guy in that situation take a pitch. And it's like, huh? Like, I get that coaches when we were young would always tell us hey, 3-0, don't you know? Take it, because it might be a ball. That's when we were kids and we couldn't hit the damn ball.
A, we couldn't hit the ball, and B, the pitchers couldn't throw the ball over the plate. So, like, it's win-win.
But, like, he got a meatball and he took it. Then we have, I think this happened today, Juan Soto, who is the sexiest just batting stance and swing in baseball right now.
So.
It's just like Barstool Sports put it perfectly. Everything about his batting stance and swing is just pure sex right now.
Yeah.
Here's the tweet. How great was this when Dave Martinez last night, after pitcher Will Smith screamed at Juan Soto for admiring a home run? This is what Dave Martinez said. I just want to let him know it wasn't Juan who threw the ball. His job is to hit the ball, so just be quiet and get on the mound. You threw the pitch, make a better pitch. And then obviously last night I threw in the KP thing as well because you had Jeff Van Gundy calling them weak technicals. And there's a part of me, Dave, that wants to ask the question. Are sports becoming too weak? Like, I remember back in, like, exactly what Dave Martinez said, where it was like, I would come off of the mound, and my mom would be like, oh, you know what, it's okay. And my dad would just look at me and goes, well, if you want, like, yeah, it sucks you lost, but practice, get better.
Yep.
Like, don't get mad that you lost.
You're professionals getting paid to play a sport that has literally just no positive impact on the world. You're entertainment.
Yeah.
You contribute nothing and you get paid millions of dollars to it. So shut up about your crying and your whinging and play the goddamn sport. You know, I love all the positive that comes out of, you know, the money sometimes when people donate back and all these things for the community. Like, that's all positive, but you're an entertainer. Your job is to play the game. It is a game made, you know, for children, child's rules. Like, I get the whole, like, don't run up the score, don't do this, don't do that. But
there's only one.
Doesn't feel right.
There's
it
only
doesn't
one
anymore.
sport I believe that in.
What's that?
College football. And the only reason I think of, like, okay, running up the score is a thing in college football is because, like, if you're Alabama playing the Citadel, all right, don't run up the score. You obviously, there's recruiting and there's obviously a talent gap between many teams.
If you don't run up the score enough, then are you going to get points in the ratings and the rankings?
It's a double-edged sword. But, like, professional sports, it's like what you just said. You're a grown-ass man. You are also a major leaguer, which you are just as good as the guy. Like, I get there's people who are better than others, but
the talent gap is so narrow.
It's like you're also a major leaguer. Like, it is so hard to make the major leagues. You are also a major leaguer. Throw a better pitch. You don't want him to swing, then don't throw it right down the middle. What's he supposed to do? Just take it and go, all right, we're up 14-3. No,
I'm with you. It's ridiculous, and I think that people are just taking things personally to take things personally at this point. Like, I think that, you know, we just talked a little shit about refs in the NBA, but in the MLB, we always talk about umpires getting involved in the games. Like, it's just, the game is what it is. It's a game.
Steven
Strasburg. If you don't want them to do that to you, you got to stop them. That's the old football adage, and I love it. I was listening to Pat McAfee this morning, and he was telling the story. Again, similar thing. It was kind of like, I think they were getting their asses kicked. It was a Pittsburgh game. They were down like 24 or some shit like that. It was like 10 to whatever, 24 plus 10 is some shit like that. And he's back there, and it's like 4th and 1, and they're fourth quarter, under 5 minutes to go, and he's like, "There's no way we're punting this, right? Like, we're down like 20 something points. Like, we got to go for it." And they're like, "Nope, we're punting." And he goes out there and he looks across and he sees Antonio Brown out there. He's like, "Oh, come on, what the fuck? Like, you're putting Antonio Brown, we're down by 4 scores. You're putting Antonio Brown out there to kick return." And he fucking blows past him and scores a touchdown. And I guess that was a play where Brown did the whole like end zone goalpost jump and wrapped his legs. Like, yeah, I mean, he embarrassed you. But like, again, you don't want him to do it. You got to stop him.
There's also also if they don't do that, then we get moments like we see in basketball all the time. All right, they have the second unit in there. And then it's like, oh shit, this game's getting close. First unit, get back out there. And it's like, you don't want that to happen. No, so you just play the game.
Baseball is one of those ones where, especially like,
I hate unwritten
rules. You want him to swing at worse pitches? Do you want him to strike out? Do you want him to hit grounders only to you? Is that what we're doing because they're winning by too much? So you have to only chop down at the ball? Like, these are stupid as shit. Baseball is such an ego like trip.
The unwritten rules are stupid.
The unwritten rules are for people who are above the age of 55.
Yeah.
Because people our age just don't give a shit.
If I hit a home run, I'm going to bat flip. I'm going to like celebrate it and I'm going to watch it. Like, I'm going to bask in the moment, Dave, because I hit a fucking home run.
You might as well. I'm with you on that one. I think the game will only grow more entertaining through the personality shining through the players. And what's holding down that personality is these unwritten rules saying you have to be humble, you can't celebrate, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't be good at the game if the other team is too bad at the game. Fuck all of that. If you want to beat a team by 16, do it. It's their job to stop you.
Dave, go with the Nike approach. Just do it, baby.
Just do it.
Last thing we're going to look at is a little college basketball, but I want to bring the NBA to it. So
sure.
Coach K made some comments today. Basically, this is from ESPN, Myron Metcalf. He says, Duke basketball head coach Mike Krzyzewski said Tuesday that he doesn't think the NCAA can afford to lose another postseason tournament, which generates more than 90% of the NCAA's annual revenue. He's talking about March Madness.
Yeah,
Coach K's comments follow reports that the cancellation of the 2020 tourney cost the organization more than $375 million.
Sounds about right.
Here's the exact quote on J. Will and Zubin on ESPN Radio.
Yep.
We are the thing that the NCAA is most concerned about because men's college basketball and the tournament pays for something like it produces 98% or more of the money for the NCAA. We need to have the tournament. We can't have it where 2 years in a row you don't have the tournament. This also comes a day after, on the football side, Mac Brown, who old coach of Texas, now is the coach of the Tar Heels, has made comments about how going remote has helped seal like football teams' bubbles, and has made it easier. And the question I want to ask you, Dave, is for college basketball.
Yep.
What can they learn from what the NBA has done, and then kind of use that for their season?
I mean, the bubble works. That's it. That's 100% what it is. If you test daily with a enclosed area, players will be safe, coaches will be safe, staff will be safe. That's totally fine. The problem is that college is such an environment where you cannot bubble teams for an entire year. Like you just can't do that. So we run into a situation where we're either just they're going to throw in like, here's our season rankings, and just they're going to handpick teams to get to play in like a March Madness super bubble, and that will be it. Or they're going to try to gamble and like let people play until they can't play anymore because of COVID, and like it's going to look similar to baseball but worse because there's like a billion kids on campus, and you can't tell kids who are on the basketball team to not interact and not go to class and not do all these things. So I think college sports as a whole, like this is just a wake-up call that, you know, I understand that you are losing so much money because of, you know, all this, but guess what? There are things
television,
in life
the TV, the commercials, and plus it goes for like a month plus.
More important than sport. Can we just admit that? And like maybe that's a good starting point as the NCAA, an organization that started off with the best of interest for kids and student athletes and has now become this massive conglomerate business that just churns and is soulless and like makes just horrible decisions for future college students and athletes. Like they've gotten so far away from what they were built to do that maybe now's a good time to recollect and figure out, you know, what the fuck your job actually should be.
Cause like, it's funny, like you say that because like, yes, their main goal should be protecting their students, their student athletes. But like they say, the root of all evil is money. Money drives things. And when you lose enough money, sometimes you're not going to, I'm not saying it's the right thing, but sometimes you're going to like basically not do what you're supposed to because you want to make that money. And before I say what I was going to say, I want to bring in this, Pat is the perfect person to have for a conversation like this. Cause not only is he well-versed in the college world, he is also a graduate assistant, if I'm not mistaken, Pat. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So, like, he lives in this world at U of I. And Pat says you can't bubble student athletes because if you do, the NCAA will have to admit that student athletes are more than students. They have to argue why regular students are not part of a bubble. And I'm going to take that, and here's my thought process with it. And can you do this with other sports? Maybe, but my goal right now isn't to worry about other sports. We're worrying about college basketball right here. How I would do it, and this is a perfect world, which we don't live in, so it probably won't happen this way. But what I would say first is I would basically, for all colleges, it's remote. And your online classes, because that's going to be, there's no transmission. Boom. You're not contact with people at all. Is that going to suck? Because it creates a challenging way to kind of teach classes and learn classes. Yes. But like in a COVID environment, that might be the best choice. Yeah. With that being said, what you can do then, and this is without making student athletes feel like they're greater than students, which they already are, but the NCAA is not going to tell us that. They can basically say, well, for example, I'm going to use the Big Ten as an example. They've worked a deal out with Chicago. Chicago is the bubble city for the Big Ten, and they do it the exact same way that the NBA did it. Now, here's also the thing, and this creates the problem. You would have to do that for every conference that can qualify for the tourney, because it's a lot. That's why I'm saying it's not going to happen. But what then you can do is, okay, those teams play their bubble, play a schedule, play a tournament, and then it's like, okay, winners of the regular season and the tournament still get in like usual. And then instead of using non-conference games, because we won't have that, basically we just pick from the litter of like what other performances had based on standings, based on how far they went in their conference, like things we already do before, just we won't have like Duke versus LSU to base on. So that's the only way I could think of it.
Because you can't keep college kids in a bubble, that many of them. Like, I mean, come on, think about it. Basketball team in college, you got about 20, 25 kids. You got coaching staffs, they're up to 35. Like per team. And in the Big Ten, obviously, how many schools are there? Not 10.
I mean,
but like
the Big Ten, we'll use them as an example. They've got 12.
Yep.
Which is less than what the NBA had.
Right, but now you need to replicate that by how many for all these conferences. And how long are they going to be in there? Is it going to be a 3-week thing? Are they going to be able to do like, hey, we're playing a game a day for the next month. You guys get like 3 days off in the meantime. That's it.
I would do it almost like the NBA did, where your season, so your conference schedule is not going to be the same, like the same amount of games. I think like the Big Ten plays like 20 conference games or something around there. You're not going to play 20 games. It's going to be a shortened season, and it's basically at the end of that. It's not doable, but that's the only thing I can think about that would make a season work.
Big Ten has 14 teams, Pat.
14. Okay. Do they have 14? Who did they add? Am I forgetting Rutgers and Nebraska made it 14 instead of 12? Even though 14 is still less than what we had. My point is it's less than what was in the bubble, but Dave is right. There's way more, like the NBA was one bubble. Everything else is more bubbles. You scared me for a second, Dave. You stopped moving.
This way.
No. You like stopped, and I looked over. I was like, shit, did I lose internet again?
No. Just getting a little antsy.
Yeah, but is it doable? No. Probably not. But yet again, these were comments made that I'm like, I feel like we have to bring up because of course they're losing money.
As far as there being a potential vaccine or temporary, reprieve from the disease, I cannot see colleges being able to pull off large-scale sports events. Individual stuff, not a problem. But team sports are just not practical, and it's not worth the risk.
And then you got Nick Saban making stupid comments about how if there's opt-outs in college football, it would just look like JV football. And it's like, really, man? I know you're in the SEC, but really, man?
Football is greater than these kids' lives. That's what the SEC is saying. They don't give a shit about your life. They don't give a shit about the quality of life after this.
And if
they
I
want to make their money off of you for free.
If I see one more tweet by someone saying that basically Ohio State and Penn State are in this together, where I've seen several tweets where it's like, all of Ohio State high school athletics and sports teams are going to play, but not Ohio State. Same thing in Pennsylvania. And it's like, why are we trying to shame them for looking out for the health of their student athletes?
Yeah, people are insane for going back to school, but there's no reason to yet.
Yeah, I don't get it, but that's where we're going to end the show. If you're watching on Twitch, thank you guys for watching with us. Stay tuned. Games Live is coming up right after this with Soapy and myself. Streamlabs better not be a bitch, because it has been a bitch all day. But if you're on YouTube and you're like, shit, I would like to watch it live, you can always watch it live at twitch.tv/MVP-vids. And if you're on Twitch, you never miss one, MVP Sports on YouTube, where you can catch that. Join the Discord. It's a great time. Link down below. Link will be in Twitch chat very soon. Sean, Dave, Soapy, someone will put the exclamation point Discord to pop that up. These will be on Patreon or podcast services soon. Draft Lotto, we will be streaming it, so check out right here for that. My draft videos are coming up, but that's everything. Thank you guys for another great episode, and as always, have a good day, everybody.